In this lesson, we want to load everything that you see inside this project from the MongoDB. So instead of loading them from the sample data inside the data.js, we are going to use MongoDB database. So follow this tutorial if you like to know how. Okay, we are going to start by installing the MongoDB community version inside our operating system. Let's start with Windows, then macOS. For installing MongoDB on the Windows, you just need to search for MongoDB community, and you are going to see a link from the MongoDB website. You can click on it. When you go inside it, you scroll down a little bit, you can download based on your platform. So you can click on the download, and after the download, you will see a file like this that you can double click on it to install. Next, accepted, next, and here click on the complete, next, and don't forget to check this install MongoDB Compass, because MongoDB Compass allows you to view the data inside your MongoDB beautifully and help you to do your job easier. Then click on next and install. Click yes and wait for it to finish its job. Now you can click on finish, and here you can click on start. As you can see, it will automatically opens up the MongoDB Compass and serves our MongoDB database on this address. So if you click on the connect, it will connect us to our MongoDB database. For the macOS, it's a little bit trickier. You need to search for install MongoDB community on macOS, then click on the first link from the MongoDB. Here scroll down to the prerequisites section. The first thing that you need is Xcode command line tools, and you can install it by using xcode-select-install. The second thing that you need is a package manager with the name of Homebrew. You can install it using this link. Now that you install the Brew package manager, you need to add the MongoDB/brew tab to the brew by using brew tab MongoDB/brew command. Because MongoDB community is not available globally on the brew package manager, but it's available inside this tab. So you need to add it first. Then you need to do brew update, and at the end you can install the MongoDB community by using brew install MongoDB community command. You can click on these copy buttons and place them inside your terminal. After finishing the installation of MongoDB community version, you just need to scroll down to this point, and you can copy this command, that is brew services start MongoDB community @6. By doing this, you are going to run the MongoDB community as a macOS service using brew. After doing this, the core of your MongoDB is ready. Now the only thing that you need to do is searching for MongoDB Compass and click on download and install Compass from the MongoDB. Here scroll down and click on open the download page, and under the title of MongoDB Compass download GUI, you're gonna scroll down, select your macOS version, whether it's M1 series or it's 64-bit, that is Intel series, and the package that is DMG. You can click on download, and after downloading the MongoDB Compass DMG file, you can double click on it. You will see a page like this. You can drag your MongoDB Compass and release it inside the applications folder, so it will be installed on your macOS. Then you just need to open it and click on connect. And as you can see, it is opened and ready to use on this address, localhost 27017, just like the Windows. Okay, if the MongoDB community version is installed on your operating system, you are ready to go to the next part, that is the coding part. Here, first of all, we want to install the Mongoose package from the npm and create our user model and food model. Let's go. Open your backend folder and open the src folder. Right click on it and create a new folder with the name of models. The first model that we want to create is the user model. So right click on it and create a new file with the name of user.model.js. Now for creating the user model, I want to install Mongoose package. So from the terminal, select new terminal, write cd backend for going to the backend folder, and write npm install mongoose for installing the mongoose package. By using the mongoose package, you can create models and schema for your MongoDB. So it's going to have structure and it's going to be more secure. Okay, our mongoose package is installed. Close the terminal and try by importing model and schema from the mongoose. Now the next thing that I want to add here is the user schema. User schema will be the structure of the user inside our MongoDB. So let's write it. Inside the user schema, as you can see, the data is exactly similar to the data that we have inside the data.js for the sample users. ID, name, email, password, address, and is admin. The ID will be automatically generated inside the database, so we don't need to put it here, but the other fields are all here. Using these timestamps adds two other fields to this schema with the names of created at and updated at. And whenever we create a new user or we update a current user, these two fields will be automatically updated. And these two JSON and two objects with these virtuals to true are useful when you want to define getters or virtual methods on your actual data inside the database. Now that we have our user schema, we want to create our model. So scroll down and let's create our model in one line. Here we go. The user model is our model. We create the model by using the model function coming from the Mongoose. This user is its name inside the database, and this user schema is the schema that we created for the user at the top. So now by using this user model, we can find user, update user, delete a user, and do everything that we want to do with the user document inside the database. Let's save this and go for the other model, that is the food model. We can close it, right click on the model and create a new file with the name of food.router.js. Once again, we need to import model and schema from the Mongoose. Then we need to create the food schema here. Once again, we have the same structure as we had inside the data.js for the sample foods, except ID, but I didn't talk about the types. Inside the user model, we have 4 string type from name to address and 1 boolean type. We can define them to be required or not required. For example, by setting the required to true. Whenever you're creating the user model, you need to set these 4 values. So it will not be created if you don't set these values. But if you set the default value, it's not necessary to fill them. If you don't fill them, they will use the default value. And for the email, we used another property with the name of unique, and we set it to true. By doing this, anytime we want to add a new user to the database, it checks if that email is already inside the database or not. If it is there, it will not allow us to add the same email because we defined the email to be unique. This is for the user and it's pretty simple. Let's go for the food one. Here we have number type. That is obvious, it's just a number. We also have string array type. So you put string with capital case inside 2 square brackets, so the Mongoose get it as string array. We have it for the tags and the origins. For the stars, we're setting the default to 3, so if we don't set the stars when we are creating the food, it will set it to stars automatically to 3, nearly on the middle. If you like your stars to be empty by default, you can set it to 0, and the rest is exactly similar to the user. Now let's go add the food model here. We exported the const with the name of food model, so this is our model, and in front of it we are calling the model function from the Mongoose again with the name of food inside the database and with this schema that we created at the top. Okay, our models are ready, user model and the food model, and we installed the Mongoose successfully. At the next step, we want to add a .env file. As you know, connection URI to the database is a credential thing. You should not expose it inside your source control or inside your Git, because nobody should see it inside the code. They should be saved inside environment variables. For simply setting the Node.js environment variables, we can use a file with the name of .env along with a package with the name of .env. Let me add it here, install .env, and this Mongo URI local should be just Mongo URI. We set the Mongo URI inside this .env file and we configure it using .env, so this Mongo URI will be part part of the Nodejs environment variable and we can use it inside the code. Let's start by installing .env package. Go to the code, from the view menu, select terminal. Here we go. Make sure you are inside backend folder and write npm install .env and press enter. It's a very small package. Close the terminal, open the Explorer, then right click on the backend folder. The .env file should be on the root folder near package.json. So right click on it and create a new file with the name of .env and press enter. Here we just need to simply write Mongo URI equal to, then we can put double quote in front of it. Then we need to open the Mongoose, so it will show us the default URI to our local MongoDB. We can copy it and put it here. Then after it, we can put a slash and write the name of the database. I want to call it food-db. Here we go, our Mongo URI is ready. But if we open the code changes, we can see our .env file here. So it will be sent to the Git, but we don't want to send our credential data to the Git. So we need to add .env file to the git ignore. So click on the git ignore file, press enter and write .env. Now if we go here, we will not see the .env file because it's ignored. Close the source control and let's see where we are. We just added the .env file, we installed .env package, but we didn't config the .env. Let's config it inside the server.js. Open the Explorer, go to the server.js, and here at the top of everything, write import .env from .env. Then on the next line, write .env.config. Here we go. By calling this config function from the .env, it will read the .env file and uses all the keys that we wrote here with their values as the environment variables. Here we go. The .env part is finished. So added the Mongo URI and we just add it to the git ignore. Now I want to add a file with the name of database.config and I want to add everything related to the configuration of the database inside it, including connecting to the MongoDB, seeding users and foods. Let's start by creating the file. Go to the code, open the Explorer, right click on the src folder and create a new folder with the name of config. Then right click on it and create a new file with the name of database.config.js. Here first of all I want to import connect and set from the Mongoose package. I will tell you what we are going to do with them. On the next step I want to set the strict query to true. We need to do this because by doing this, the Mongoose uses the schema of your models strictly. For example, if you want to add something to the food model that is not inside the schema, it's going to throw an exception. So it will not allow us to do that. And it means our data storage will be much more secure. At the next step, I want to expose a function with the name of dbconnect. So export const dbconnect, and I want to make it an async function that has this body. It has a try catch block. Inside the try, we call the connect function from the Mongoose. The first argument of the connect function is Mongo URI that's coming from process.env. If you remember, we just add it to the .env file and we configure it here so that Mongo URI will be available here through process.env. So we can use it here. But we also want to pass two other parameters. Object, we set use new URL parser to true and use unified topology to true. You need to do it for the newer versions of the Mongoose. Then at the end, I just added a log. So it says connect successfully. So if it was successful, it says connect successfully. Otherwise, if the connect has an error, goes to the catch part and we log that error inside the console. Pretty simple. Now that our dbconnect function is ready, we can go to the server.js and here before the app, we can write import dbconnect and import it from the database config. Then we can call it inside the server.js file. Now if we click on the view and terminal and click on the running backend instance of terminal, we'll see that there is a listening on port 5000. It means it is successfully connected to the database. Okay, the database connection part, connecting to the MongoDB part is finished. Let's check this one. Now is the time for seeding the database because we are connected to the MongoDB but we don't have anything inside it. By doing the seeding part, we are going to put our sample users and sample foods inside the database. For seeding the users, we cannot save the password directly inside the database. We need to hash the password inside the database for security reasons, because by any reason, if somebody could be able to have access to your database, he could not be able to have access to your users' passwords. So let's go install bcrypt.js and seeding the users and foods. Let's go to the code. From the view, select terminal, select the not running backend instance, or open a new terminal and go to the backend folder. Then write npm install bcrypt.js and press enter. Okay, it's installed. Now let's come back to the database config. Here, before doing anything else, let's go to the Explorer and look at these models. It's better the names of the folders in JavaScript start with lowercase character. So make it models with the lowercase character. Then come back here and add everything that is necessary for seeding the users and foods inside the database. Here we go. We just added user model and food model, the Mongoose models that we created inside the models folder, sample users and sample foods as a sample data for being seeded to the database. And bcrypt.js, that is the last package that we installed. Bcrypt package needs an argument with the name of salt rounds for hashing. I want to create a constant for it. And this salt round means number of times that this bcrypt.js are going to hash your data. So if you give it a bigger number, it's going to be more secure, but it also needs more resources of your server. So keep it 10, and 10 is fast and secure enough. Now that we have all the imports, let's go down and add the seed users function. So let's write async function seed users. Here, first of all, we want to check if the seed is already done or not. So we are going to get the count of documents from the user model and put it inside user count, and checking if it is more than 0, it means if there is already a data inside the user model, we're going to say that the seed is already done. So the seed document is not empty, and we are going to return. Otherwise, we are going to loop through all the sample users that are coming from the data.js, but before saving them directly using userModel.create, we are going to hash their password using the bcrypt.hash function and passing the current user password from the sample users. And as I told you, the bcrypt as the second parameter inside its hash function gets a number for salt rounds, and we set it to 10 at the top, and we used it here. So the password will be hashed, and on the next line, we just create the user using the user model, and we save it inside the database. Here, as you can see at the top, we are going to say the user seed is already done, but here we need to say the user seed is done. Okay, our seed users function is ready. So if the database is already seeded, we are going to see this message inside the console. But if it's empty, these parts are going to be run, and we are going to see this part inside the console. But where we need to use it? Best place is after the connect function. So here write await seed users. Now, if you open the terminal and go to the backend running instance of terminal, you will see that the user seed is already done because I used this database before. So if I change its name to something that I didn't seed before, then if I go here and save it just for restarting the server, you will see that it says users seed is done. Now, if I go to the MongoDB compass and connect here, you will see we have a foodmine db1, and inside its user model, I have the newly seeded data. Now I want to do the same for the foods. As you can see, the foods collection is empty. Let's go to the code, scroll down after the seed users. Let's write async function seed foods. Here, once again, we want to count the documents inside the food model and store it inside the foods constant. Then again, we're going to see the number of foods are more than 0. We are going to show the food seed is already done. And here we are going to have a for again, but this time for image URL. Okay, as you can see, for every single food from the sample foods coming from the data.js, we are going to add /foods/ to its image URL and set it to its image URL again. Then we are going to create the food model. We used to add this /foods/ inside the front end side. That wasn't a good decision, because if you have a food that is not inside your local machine, you're going to have error. So it's better to set it inside the database and fix the front end side. That we are going to do in this video. Then at the end, I want to console log food seed is done. If I open the terminal, you only see that user seed is already done. Now, if I scroll up after the connect function at the bottom of seed users, I can add seed foods. And if I save it, you will see foods seed is done. And if I save it again, you will see foods seed is already done because on the first run, it did its job. Now, if we go to the MongoDB compass and refresh the data, you will see that we have all of our foods inside the database. Now let's see where we are. We just added the database config file. We seeded the users. We installed the ReactJS and we seeded the foods. Now we need to go to the user router and update it for using user model instead of sample data. And since the functions coming out of the user model are async, we need to install express async handler package. So first of all, let's go and install it. Open the terminal, go to the terminal that's inside backend folder. Let's clear everything. You need to write CLS if you are on Windows, then write npm install express async handler and press enter. Here we go, it's installed. Okay, we're done with the database config and .env file, server.js and food model. Let's open the Explorer. From the routers, go to the user.router.js. Here on the import part, we need to add 3 things. First one is the handler, the second one is the user model, and the third one is bcrypt.js. The order is not important, but all of them should be imported inside your user router. Now that we have this express async handler here, we just need to come on the login API, select its handler, press Ctrl X or Command X in macOS. So you are going to see it like this. Here you can add handler, then call it, write async, and paste what you have. This is all you need to do for making your APIs async by using the express async handler. Now here, instead of finding the user from the sample users, we need to write await user model.find one with this email. So first of all, we are going to find the user by its email, but not its password, because you cannot find the password as a plain password inside the database. Because if you look at the database on the users collection, you will see that the password is hashed and it's not a plain password. For checking the password here, we need to use the compare method from the bcrypt. So here inside this if, first of all, we check if the user with this email is available, then we write an and we write this. We write await bcrypt.compare. As the first parameter, we pass the plain password coming from the user, and the second parameter is the hashed password that's coming from the user saved inside the database. So the first password coming from the password he entered inside the text box, and the second one is the password that is saved inside the database. So these two will be compared to each other, and if the result is true, it means password matches the hash, so the token response will be generated. Otherwise, we are going to send a username or password is invalid message with the bad request status to the user. Now, if you go to the browser and try to log in again with the same email and password, you will see that we are using database or login. Now we want to do the same for the foods to come from the database instead of sample foods. But before that, I want to do something else. Here, as you can see, for the JWT sign, I used a sample text. This text is JWT's secret, and it's very, very credential, because if somebody has this text, he could be able to encrypt and decrypt token just like the token you generate. So he can generate a token by himself, and he could set his isAdmin to true, so he could be able to compromise your server. For not exposing the secret, you need to put it inside the .env file that we created. So open your .env file and write JWT_secret and enter a very random number. Just press all the keys randomly on your keyboard. It doesn't have a length limitation, but between 16 to 32 characters are enough. Copy the key of your environment variable and go over here, remove this and write process.env and paste the name that you wrote here. So your JWT secret are going to come out of your environment variables, and you can set different values for it, whether you are running it on your local machine or inside your server. Okay, before doing anything else, let's log out and log in again because it is related to the login part. As you can see, it works again. So we are ready to go for the foods part. So close this one and this one. Open the Explorer, go to the food router, scroll to the top. Here at the top, we can remove the sample foods and sample tags coming from data.js. We can go back to the user model and do the same, I think. We have it here too, yes. Let's remove sample users from the user model. We don't need them anymore inside the routers. Here we need to add two things. The food model coming from the Mongoose models and handler coming from Express async handler. We don't need bcrypt here because we don't want to hash anything. We just need these two. But here we just need to make everything async. So just like how I told you, let's add handler into all of our APIs inside the food router. So let's cut the current handler, write handler, call it, write async and paste it. Let's do the same for all the other ones. Okay, we just added the handler to all of our APIs. Now let's use food model instead of sample foods and sample tags. Here for the s/1 that is responsible for getting all the foods. First of all, at the first line, we need to get all the foods from the food model by writing const foods await food model.find and giving it an empty criteria object. This is going to return all the foods. Now we just need to return this foods constant instead of the sample food. Okay, the root API is finished. Let's go to the next one, that is getting all the tags. This is the most complicated one because we are not going to save the sample tags inside the database. We are going to get the tags from the foods. And since each food has a list of tags, we need to use aggregate function on the food model. So let's start. Here, as you can see, we are using the aggregate function. By using this aggregate function, you can run an array of operators and functions on your Mongoose model inside the database. The first thing that I want to do is making the tags flat. For doing this, we need to use unwind operator. By using this unwind operator, we are going to have a list of foods that each food has a single tag. So we just created a single row for every single tag. Now we want to group them together with the ID of tags. So here we are going to make a group that its ID is the tags. So the ID will be the name of the tag, for example, fast food, and the count uses the sum operator. Remember, anything that starts with a $sign is an operator here, and 1. So for every single tag, we are going to sum 1 to the count. So in fact, this one will give us the count of foods with that specific tag. Now is the time for the project part. The project part is like select inside the SQL. The first line of its underline ID 0 means we don't want this ID to be returned. In fact, we want that ID to be represented inside the name property. This $ inside the string means this is a field name, not a literal text. So we set the ID to the name and we set the count to the count. Now we have our data because everything that was necessary was the name and the count of tags. Now here at the end of it, I want to sort all the tags based on the count. So let's use the sort function, and inside it, let's write count -1. And this -1 means descending. If you use 1, it will be ascending. But this is not the end. I also want an all item inside my tags. It's a personal preference. You can add it, or you can just keep it like this and return it. But I like to add it. Here we just need to create a new object with the name of all, with the count of await food model.count documents, because this name has the count of all the foods inside the database. Then we need to add it as the first item inside this list. So we can use tags dot unshift all. And unshift is the opposite of push. Push adds the item to the end. Unshift adds the item to the beginning of an array. array. And here at the end, instead of sending the sample tags that we don't have it anymore, we can send these tags. Now, if we go to the browser and refresh the page, we are going to see the tags at the top. As you can see, we are not seeing images anymore. That's because of that /foods that I told you before. We need to fix on the front end. We are going to do it after finishing the food router. Now let's go to the code and go for the next one, that is searching. For searching items inside the database case insensitive, we cannot use these two lowercase inside our model. Instead of that, we need to create a search regular expression like this. And this is very simple. We are just getting the search, then putting it inside the new regular expression object with the I as its second parameter. And that I means case insensitive. Now for finding the foods, we need to remove this sample foods filter and write this. We are using the find function and we are going to search for the name of the foods with the regular expression of the search regular expression. Remember, you need to pass it to the regex operator. You cannot use it directly for the name. Okay, the search part is finished. Let's go to the browser and search for example, meat and press enter. As you can see, the search for the foods working very well. So let's go for the next API, that is finding the foods based on a single tag. Once again, we just need to remove everything in front of the foods and write a very simple code that is food model.find where the tags equal to this tag. Very simple. So now if we go to the browser and click on item, we are going to see that finding the food based on the tags working very well. Now the last thing on the food router is finding the food based on its ID. It's the simplest one. Just need to remove everything in front of the food equal to and write this. Await food model, find by ID, passing the food ID. And if we go to the browser, click on a food, we are seeing the food, but with a big ID from the database. So we know that this is coming out of database. Now let's see where we are. We just updated the user router. We added express async handler, login API, generate token response. We updated the food router, root API, tags API, search API, and foods ID API. Now we just need to fix the image URL in the home page or thumbnails component, food page, and cart page. Let's start with the home page. Open the Explorer, go to the front end side, close the back end side, and you can close the food router too. Open the src folder, go to the components, thumbnails, and thumbnails.js. Here, as you can see, for the img, remember, don't touch the link. The link should be like this because it goes to the router. img src, you need to remove this /foods/ here, and that's it. Now if you go to the home page, you will see all the food. Now let's fix the food page. Go to the Explorer, from the pages, foodpage.js, do the same for the img src part and save it. We go to the browser, we are going to see the food. But what about the cart page? Let's fix it too. Open the Explorer, pages, cartpage.js, close the Explorer, and here at the part of img src, remove this /foods/ and save it. Now if we go to the browser, we are going to see the foods of the cart page too. So everything about this lesson is finished and our project backend is connected to the MongoDB. You've been watching Code with Nasir and I hope to see you next time.